The lecture hall hummed with quiet anticipation. Rows of alien students sat perfectly still, their multicolored skin and varied appendages creating a vibrant tableau of extraterrestrial diversity. Among them, two particularly young researchers, Jay and Sung, adjusted their translation devices and leaned forward. Daniel Park walked into the room, carrying nothing more than a simple medical kit and a worn leather satchel. His movements were casual, almost relaxed, which immediately struck the alien students as unusual. Most galactic instructors arrived with elaborate holographic equipment and complex technological interfaces. Today, he began, his voice steady and clear, we're going to discuss human emergency medical procedures. The translation devices flickered, converting his words into various alien languages and neural communication patterns. Jay, a slender creature with iridescent blue skin and 3 eyes, tilted her head with curiosity. Sung, whose species resembled tall crystalline beings, remained stoically skeptical. Daniel set down his medical kit and surveyed the room. Hundreds of alien eyes watched him, some with interest, most with a mixture of academic detachment and mild condescension. They believed their medical technologies were far superior to anything a single species from a small, unremarkable planet could produce. He opened the kit and pulled out several items that made no immediate sense to the alien observers. A roll of gray tape, a small thermal knife, some strips of cloth, bandages that looked primitively manufactured, no advanced regeneration technology, no cellular reconstruction tools, just simple objects. Humans operate in environments where advanced medical technology isn't always available, Daniel explained. Our first aid is about survival, not perfection. Jay's secondary eye blinked rapidly, a sign of intense processing among her species. She was recording every moment, every gesture. Something about the human's approach felt different, unpredictable. Sung remained motionless, his crystalline structure reflecting the room's soft lighting. His species valued precision and technological intervention. These simple tools seemed almost insulting to his advanced medical understanding. Daniel began demonstrating basic techniques. He showed how a simple piece of tape could temporarily seal a wound, how cloth could become a tourniquet, how basic compression could stop bleeding. Each demonstration was accompanied by clinical explanations, but delivered with a matter-of-factness. That suggested these were not theoretical concepts, but hard-earned knowledge. The alien students began shifting uncomfortably. Their medical training had always emphasized complex, sterile procedures, regenerative technologies, nanosurgical interventions. What they were witnessing seemed almost barbaric in its simplicity. In emergency situations, Daniel continued, humans don't have the luxury of perfect medical care. We adapt. We survive. He demonstrated how to create a splint using 2 straight objects and some cloth, how to treat shock using basic body positioning, how to perform emergency breathing assistance with minimal equipment. Jay's recording devices were working overtime. Her species valued information above all else, and this human was presenting something entirely unexpected. These were not just medical techniques. These were survival strategies born from desperation and creativity. Sung's crystalline structure began to subtly vibrate, a sign of internal emotional processing among his species. He was simultaneously repulsed and intrigued. How could such primitive methods possibly be effective? As the lecture progressed, the alien students' initial dismissiveness started transforming. Daniel wasn't presenting theoretical knowledge. He was sharing survival tactics developed in the harshest conditions imaginable. Each technique told a story of human resilience. The room's atmosphere changed. What began as a routine xenobiological lecture was becoming something else entirely, a window into a species that refused to be defined by technological limitations. When Daniel finally closed his medical kit, the silence was profound. Hundreds of alien students sat processing what they had just witnessed. Some looked disturbed, some looked fascinated, but none looked bored. Jay and Sung exchanged a meaningful glance. Something fundamental had shifted in their understanding of medical science, and more importantly in their understanding of humans. The lecture was over, But the real learning was just beginning. The demonstration room was cold and sterile, typical of galactic research facilities. Daniel Park stood at the center, surrounded by a group of alien students who watched him with a mixture of curiosity and growing unease. He placed several objects on the medical table: a roll of industrial-grade tape, a small heating element, some strips of cloth, bandages that looked like they belonged in a primitive medical museum. The aliens exchanged confused glances. "Today," Daniel said, "I'll show you how humans handle emergency situations when advanced technology isn't available." Jay leaned forward, her 3 eyes blinking rapidly. Sung remained perfectly still, his crystalline body reflecting the harsh laboratory lights. The other alien students held their breath, uncertain of what was about to happen. Daniel picked up the industrial tape. "This isn't just adhesive," he explained. "In emergency situations, this can save a life." He demonstrated how the tape could quickly seal a wound, preventing immediate blood loss. The aliens gasped. Their medical protocols required sterilized nanopatches and precise surgical interventions. "Watch carefully," he continued, now selecting the small heating element. The alien students tensed. Their medical training screamed that direct heat was dangerous, potentially causing more harm than good. With practiced movements, Daniel showed how a heated element could cauterize a wound in environments where traditional medical tools were unavailable. The crystal-like Sung vibrated slightly, a sign of extreme emotional response among his species. This seemed almost barbaric to their advanced understanding. Jay's recording devices worked overtime. Each movement, each explanation, was a revelation. These weren't just medical techniques. These were survival strategies developed in the most challenging conditions imaginable. Daniel moved to the cloth strips. "Improvisation is key to human survival," he explained. He demonstrated how a simple piece of cloth could become a tourniquet, how clothing could be used to create pressure bandages, how ordinary materials could become life-saving tools. The alien students watched in growing horror and fascination. Their medical training had always emphasized precision, sterilization, advanced technological intervention. What they were seeing was something entirely different, a raw, primal approach to survival. Humans often survive in environments that would kill most other species. Daniel continued. His voice was calm, almost matter-of-fact. "Our medical techniques are about immediate survival, not perfect treatment." He showed how to create a splint using 2 straight objects and some cloth, how to position a body to prevent shock, how to perform emergency breathing assistance with minimal equipment. Each demonstration was a testament to human adaptability. Sung's crystalline structure began to show microfractures, a sign of extreme emotional stress among his species. This was more than a medical demonstration. This was a challenge to everything they understood about medical intervention. Jay couldn't look away. Her species valued information above all else, and this human was presenting something revolutionary. These weren't just medical techniques. These were survival strategies born from desperation and creativity. The room grew tense. What started as a routine xenobiological lecture was transforming into something else entirely. A window into a species that refused to be limited by technological constraints. Daniel's final demonstration involved using the tape and heating element to create an emergency seal for a punctured environment suit. The aliens watched, their technological understanding completely challenged. "In space," Daniel explained, "you might not have time for perfect solutions. You need immediate action." When he finished, the silence was profound. Hundreds of alien students sat processing what they had just witnessed. Some looked disturbed, some looked impressed, but none looked bored. Jay and Sung exchanged a meaningful glance. Something fundamental had shifted in their understanding of medical science, and more importantly, in their understanding of humans. The demonstration was over, but the real learning was just beginning. As the alien students filed out, whispers filled the room. Discussions about human resilience, about survival, about a species that refused to be defined by technological limitations. Daniel packed his simple medical kit, a slight smile playing on his lips. Another day of challenging galactic understanding had begun. The simulation chamber buzzed with anticipation. Holographic displays flickered, creating a landscape that mimicked the harsh environment of a distant planetary crash site. Jay and Sung stood behind the observation glass, their bodies tense with expectation. A volunteer lay motionless on the ground. Simulated injuries covered his body, a deep gash on the leg, multiple fractures, and signs of severe internal bleeding. In any standard galactic medical scenario, this would be a hopeless situation. Daniel Park entered the simulation area, his movements calm and calculated. He carried nothing more than his simple medical kit, the same collection of seemingly primitive tools that had shocked the alien students earlier. The crash scenario played out: extreme terrain, limited resources, hostile environmental conditions, the kind of situation where advanced medical technology would fail completely. Jay's three eyes tracked every movement. Her recording devices captured every single detail. Sung's crystalline body vibrated with a mixture of horror and reluctant fascination. Daniel worked quickly, no hesitation, no panic. His hands moved with practiced efficiency that seemed to defy the complexity of the injuries. He first assessed the bleeding, using nothing more than a piece of cloth and careful pressure. The aliens watched in disbelief. The industrial tape appeared, not a high-tech nano patch, not a cellular regeneration tool, just simple, strong adhesive. Daniel used it to create a temporary seal on the deep leg wound. Each movement was precise, purposeful. Sung couldn't believe what he was seeing. His species would have required multiple specialized medical units, complex scanning equipment, and hours of careful intervention. This human was doing the impossible with what seemed like nothing. The heating element came next. Carefully, Daniel used it to cauterize the wound, preventing further blood loss in an environment where traditional medical support was impossible. The volunteer didn't even flinch, trained to simulate extreme conditions. Jay's recording devices were working overtime. Her species valued information above all else, and this was proving to be a masterclass in survival medicine. Daniel created a splint using 2 straight pieces of material from the crash site. No advanced bone-setting technology, no regenerative supports, just basic understanding of human anatomy and survival techniques. The simulation continued. The volunteer showed signs of shock, a critical condition that would typically require advanced medical intervention. Daniel's response was immediate: body positioning, improvised warmth, careful management of limited resources. Minutes passed. The alien students watched in growing disbelief. By all their medical understanding, the volunteer should have been beyond saving. Yet he remained stable, alive. When the simulation ended, Daniel stepped back. The volunteer sat up, fully functional. No signs of the critical injuries that had seemed fatal moments before. The observation room erupted into chaos. Alien students began discussing, arguing, their translation devices creating a cacophony of shocked communication. Jay turned to Sung, her 3 eyes wide. "How?" she asked. It was more than a question. It was a challenge to everything they understood about medical science. Sung's crystalline structure showed multiple fracture lines, a sign of extreme emotional processing among his species. "Impossible," he whispered. But they both knew what they had witnessed. The simulation replay began. Daniel's techniques, the seemingly impossible survival, each moment documented, each movement a testament to human adaptability. Survival isn't about perfect technology, Daniel's voice echoed from the recording. It's about understanding, adaptation, refusal to give up. As the alien students filed out, the simulation chamber remained silent. Something fundamental had changed. Their understanding of medical science, their perception of human capabilities. Jay continued recording. Sung continued processing. And in the background, Daniel Pack simply packed his simple medical kit, ready for the next demonstration. Another day of challenging galactic understanding had come to an end. The research lounge hummed with nervous energy. Jay and Sung sat in a corner, their bodies positioned in ways that revealed their inner turmoil. Around them, other alien students whispered and gestured, processing the day's shocking demonstration. Jay's three eyes moved restlessly, a clear sign of emotional confusion among her species. Sung's crystalline structure showed microfractures, tiny lines of stress that betrayed his internal struggle. "It doesn't make sense," Jay muttered, her translation device converting her complex native language into simple words. "How can such primitive methods work?" Sung remained silent for a moment. His species was known for careful contemplation, for analyzing every possible angle before speaking. When he finally responded, his voice was low and controlled. "Humans are different," he said carefully. The words seemed to challenge everything they had been taught about advanced medical practices. The simulation they had witnessed continued to replay in their minds. A critically injured human. Nothing but simple tools. No advanced technology, yet complete survival. It defied every medical protocol they had ever learned. Other alien students gathered nearby, their conversations a mix of horror and grudging respect. They spoke about the human instructor's demonstration, how he had transformed simple objects into life-saving tools, how survival seemed to be hardwired into human DNA in a way no other species understood. Jay pulled up her recording data. Thousands of moments captured, each one challenging their understanding of medical science. The tape, the heating element, the simple cloth strips, tools that should have been useless, yet they worked. "Our medical academies teach precision," Sung said, breaking the silence. "Sterilization, advanced intervention. But humans," he couldn't complete the thought. A group of researchers from different planetary systems approached their table. They all looked shaken. The human demonstration had created a profound psychological impact that went beyond medical understanding. "Did you see how he used that tape?" one researcher asked. Her species looked like walking crystalline trees, their branches moving with agitated energy. "It's not just a medical technique, it's a survival philosophy." Jay nodded. Her recording devices continued capturing every moment, every discussion, every emotional nuance. The lounge became a center of intense discussion. What did this mean for galactic medical understanding? How could a species develop such effective survival techniques with such limited resources? Sung's internal fractures began to spread, not from physical stress but from the psychological impact of what they had witnessed. Everything he understood about medical science was being challenged. "Humans don't just treat injuries," one researcher said. "They fight against them. They refuse to accept defeat." The conversation continued late into the night. Each alien student processed the demonstration differently. Some were horrified, some were fascinated. But none remained unchanged. Jay noticed Sung becoming increasingly introspective. His crystalline structure now showed complex patterns of stress and understanding. Something fundamental was shifting in his perception. "We've been wrong," Sung finally said. The words came quietly, but they carried immense weight. The research lounge fell silent. Other alien students turned to look at him. A fundamental truth was being spoken. Jay's three eyes blinked in agreement. The human demonstration had done more than show medical techniques. It had revealed something deeper about survival, about adaptability, about the human spirit. As the night progressed, the discussions continued. The psychological breakdown was complete. Their understanding of medical science would never be the same. In the corner, Jay's recording devices continued capturing every moment, every emotional nuance, every challenge to their previous understanding. The human instructor, Daniel Park, had done more than demonstrate medical techniques. He had opened a window into a completely different way of understanding survival, and in that research lounge, surrounded by alien students from across the galaxy, a new understanding was being born. The Galactic Medical Council chamber was unlike any conference room. Massive holographic displays surrounded circular platforms where representatives from thousands of planetary systems gathered. Today's agenda was unusual, a comprehensive review of human emergency medical techniques. Daniel Park stood at the center, calm and composed. Around him, alien representatives studied his every movement. Some looked curious, some looked suspicious, most looked uncertain. A representative from the Crystal Confederation, Sung's home system, spoke first. His voice translated smoothly, through communication devices. These techniques challenge everything we understand about medical intervention. Another delegate, representing a silicon-based species, projected holographic data showing the effectiveness of human methods. Numbers danced in the air: survival rates, adaptation speeds, emergency intervention success percentages. The data was shocking. Humans had consistently demonstrated survival rates that exceeded advanced technological interventions, not by small margins, by significant percentages. Jay, now serving as a junior research analyst, presented her comprehensive documentation. Her three eyes moved rapidly, controlling holographic displays that showed human emergency techniques in various extreme environments: space crashes, planetary disasters, isolated survival scenarios. Each presentation revealed the same pattern. Human adaptability was not just a skill. It was a fundamental survival mechanism. They don't just treat injuries, Jay explained. They prevent them. They anticipate them. They turn limitations into advantages. The council members watched in growing fascination. What had started as a curiosity was transforming into a serious scientific discussion. Daniel remained silent, allowing the data to speak for itself. His simple medical kit sat on a platform beside him, a symbol of the philosophy he represented. Hours passed. Discussion became debate. Debate transformed into serious consideration. The human approach to emergency medicine was no longer being dismissed. It was being studied, respected. A representative from the Quantum Medical Association made a surprising recommendation. "We should develop training programs based on human survival techniques," she suggested. Her proposal was met with initial resistance, then growing agreement. Sung, now a senior researcher, presented additional analysis. His crystalline structure had changed, no longer rigid, but more flexible. His understanding had expanded. "Humans demonstrate a medical philosophy we've never considered," he explained. "Survival is not about perfect technology. It's about adaptability, immediate response, human creativity." The Council's final resolution was unprecedented. Not only would human emergency medical techniques be studied, but they would be integrated into galactic medical training programs. Planetary systems that had previously dismissed humans as a primitive species now looked at them with new respect. These were not just survival techniques. These were fundamental lessons in adaptability. As the conference concluded, Daniel Pack gathered his simple medical kit. No grand speeches, no dramatic declarations, just quiet, confident professionalism. Jay approached him, her three eyes showing a mix of respect and continued curiosity. "What drives humans to develop such techniques?" she asked. Daniel's response was simple. "Survival," he said. "We learn, we adapt, we survive." The Galactic Medical Council had just witnessed a revolution, not through advanced technology, not through complex scientific breakthrough, but through simple, effective human approach to survival. News spread quickly across planetary systems. Human emergency medical techniques were no longer a curiosity. They were becoming a standard of training. In research facilities across the galaxy, young medical students would now learn about the humans, a species that turned limitations into strengths, a species that refused to be defined by technological constraints. Daniel Pack walked out of the conference center. Another day of challenging galactic understanding had come to an end, but something fundamental had changed. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Survival was no longer just a biological function. For humans, it was an art form,